All right, folks, as we close out the first half of the school year, a new study is highlighting both the major challenges and promise facing the nation's black teachers. For one, African Americans account for just 7% of the U.S. teaching workforce. Black teachers are also leaving the classroom at higher rates than their white peers. The Education Trust, which advocates for high academic achievement for students of color, interviewed 150 black teachers in public and charter schools in 7 states. Their experiences are chronicled in the report Through Our Eyes, Perspectives and Reflections from Black Teachers. Joining us now is the report's primary researcher, Ashley Griffin, Interim Director of K-12 Research for the Education Trust. All right, so what are the teachers saying?
Well, they're basically saying they're experiencing a lot of racial discrimination and bias, that despite their strengths, they're still pigeonholed in certain positions and workplaces, and that this is one of the reasons that they think they might leave.
What does that then mean? Because are they saying that they're teaching largely in schools where there are African American students, or are they teaching in places where there are a few black students?
It's a really great question. We actually see in our numbers a lot of black teachers are teaching in predominantly black schools. That doesn't mean they're not facing the same challenges as teachers in schools that are one black teacher and the only black teacher in the workforce. And so these challenges are across the board. They're coming from colleagues, parents, students. So it's not just about administrators discriminating against teachers in their buildings or just teacher colleagues. It's also about how parents perceive, black and white parents, I should say, perceive black teachers and how students perceive these teachers.
And obviously this is huge because you want to have a reflection of your student body in your teaching workforce. Because look, there are cultural realities. I mean, I can tell you, like I have a brother who taught for a number of years, 3 sisters who are teachers as well. And it was interesting visiting them and listening to them talking about how white teachers handle black students much differently than black teachers did.
Absolutely. We heard teachers across the board talk about a level of patience, talk about a space where they could be a space where they could let a trust barrier kind of drop between teachers and students, and that this just allowed them to have a different kind of conversation, to build a different kind of relationship. But on the flip side, this same relationship often meant they had to tone down who they were as people and individuals. It meant that they were seen as only disciplinarians in their building. So rather than I'm a great classroom manager, I can provide a space that's conducive for learning, I'm just an enforcer. I'm the whole classroom manager for the whole building. I'm the disciplinarian for the whole building. So we heard it across states. It became a conversation we heard over and over and over again. It was just salient and saturated.
So if I'm not mistaken, you said that black teachers are having these same experiences even in all black student situations?
Yes. So we didn't just go where the black teacher was the only black teacher. We had a good mix. And fortunately or unfortunately, because of the way we sampled, we had to go to places like Birmingham, Alabama, for example, where there are a lot of black teachers, frankly, teaching in schools with a lot of black children. And what we did was we found this point of saturation. So over 70% of our responses kind of are reflected in our paper. There were some, maybe like 10% or so, that say, oh, I didn't have any challenges particular to race. But an overwhelming amount said, yes, I'm having these challenges regardless of my school context. Because you could be a black teacher with other black teachers, with black students, with maybe a white principal, or maybe a black principal who maybe sees things a little differently than you do. And so you have to think about those things too in the context of teachers.
So my mom was a teacher for nearly 40 years in public schools. And so I certainly hear everything that you're saying about, and she was a witness to the fact of how our children are treated differently when it's not a black teacher in the head of the classroom. So grow up understanding that dynamic. Now we fast forward many, many years, and I had to fight this year to get my son into the classroom with a black male teacher. He's in the 8th grade, and this is the first year he's actually had a black male teacher in anything other than an athletic capacity, which I had to fight to get him in there, by the way. So my point is, what can we do to increase the representation of black people in this field? Because, and to tell you the truth, I feel like black teachers have been targeted in recent years by municipalities that have been closing schools, that have been pushing teachers out. This one sort of area that used to be the gateway for the middle class, quite frankly, in many ways for the black community, is now being shrunk, and it's not only negatively impacting those individuals, those teachers themselves, but it's impacting those students who need to have that positive role model in the classroom, and also someone that can understand and relate to them in a very particular way and believe in them in ways that others, quite frankly, don't.
Totally agree with that. What we think needs to happen is school districts need to start thinking about and looking at their attrition, retention data, and having some of these small focus groups in districts. So places like Denver Public Schools have talked to 70 Black teachers and finding out that they're actually experiencing the same kind of racial discrimination and climate in schools. So that's the starting point, right? Like, we need to build awareness in schools about what's happening, because our Black teachers are teachers, but there's another layer to their experience that we have to understand to be able to retain them in the workplace and recruit them in the workplace. And so as we push for recruitment across the country, which is essential and important and necessary, we have to think about, where are we placing Black teachers? What are the conditions that they're working in? What are their unique challenges? And then start trying to find ways with them involved.
Policy? Who's the control? I mean, who are you going to complain to or report to have reform?
20 seconds.
Complain to, a report to. I think right now we're building awareness, but policymakers need to be a part of this awareness, because we're talking about district level policy. At one level, we're talking about school level policies and hiring policies, but knowing the data is the first starting point for all of that to take place. If we don't know what's happening, we don't know who's being retained, who's leaving, why they're leaving, and really listening and letting teachers, Black teachers in particular, be a part of that conversation, we won't know where to go from there. So we really have to start at that point.
All right, we appreciate it. Where can folks get more information on the report?
www.edtrust.org/Black teachers is where the report is posted.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks, when we come back, a lot of y'all looking to buy a Christmas gift for your loved ones, but you broke as hell. Let's not front. America's Wealth Coach Deborah Owens will try to keep you from being broker than hell. 10 before top of the hour, News 1 now, TV 1.